Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Madness of Hercules. The story of Hercules is a twisted tale of madness, murder, and salvation through hard work. It all starts with Hercules as a baby. Because Hercules' mother was impregnated by Zeus, Zeus's wife Hera kept trying to murder Hercules out of revenge. She felt slighted and embarrassed and wanted to get back at Zeus for sleeping with another woman by murdering his baby. But Hercules was endowed with incredible strength and always managed to survive. It was as an adult that Hera's attempts at sabotaging Hercules' life really paid off. He was married to a woman named Megara. He had some sons, and everything was going really well for him. Then Hera caused Hercules to go completely insane. In a fit of uncontrollable madness, he unknowingly slayed his own family. Filled with terrible guilt and shame, Hercules went to the Oracle of Delphi for guidance. He was told to seek the king of Mycenae. He was to work for 10 years as atonement for his heinous crimes. And this was how Hercules came to be in the service of King Eurystheus. The king ordered Hercules to perform 10 labors, but he ended up doing 12. The 12 labors of Hercules were not easy, as the name would imply, and would have been impossible if he wasn't the strongest man in the world. He slayed the Nemean lion and slaughtered the 9-headed Lernaean hydra. Hercules captured the Cyrenian hind and the Erymanthian boar. He also cleaned the famous Augean stables in a single day, becoming the best stable boy in the world. He destroyed the evil Stymphalian birds and caught the Cretan bull. He stole the mares of Diomedes and the cattle of the 3-bodied giant known as Geryon. One of Hercules' tasks took him to the land of the Amazons, where he obtained the girdle of Hippolyta. She was the queen of the Amazon warrior women. Hercules stole 3 golden apples from the Hesperides. And last on the list, Hercules went down to the depths of the underworld to fight the 3-headed dog named Cerberus. He beat the hellhound of Hades and brought it back to the surface. What's so great about the myth of Hercules is that his labors took him through the vast ancient Greek world. He saw monsters and met other famous heroes from Greek mythology. Then, with his labors completed, he joined Jason and the Argonauts as they quested for the Golden Fleece. He was forgiven for the murder of his family and became a god. Archaeologists are fairly certain that people were worshipping Hercules as a deity at least since the 8th century BC. Number 9. Perseus and Medusa. Acrisius, the king of Argos, was told by the Oracle of Delphi that he would be murdered by his own grandson one day. The oracle said that the grandson would be the child of his daughter Danae. Frightful of the unavoidable future, the king built a room beneath the earth and imprisoned his daughter within it, so she would be unable to bear a child. But then Zeus came down in the form of a golden rain. He pierced the walls of her underground chamber and left a baby in her belly. That baby was Perseus. The king put Danae and Perseus on a boat and pushed them out to sea, hoping they would drown. Perseus and his mother arrived on the shores of Seriphos Island. They were saved, and Perseus grew to be a strong and handsome demigod. He was also fiercely protective of his mother, who was lusted after by the king of Seriphos, Polydectes. To try and get rid of Perseus, Polydectes sent him away on a dangerous mission. Perseus could not return to the island unless it was with the head of Medusa. Medusa was one of 3 Gorgons. Legend had it they were 3 beautiful maidens who were so desirable that when Medusa turned down the advances of Poseidon, he turned Medusa and her sisters into monstrous freaks. Medusa still had her beautiful face, but she was covered in live snakes. Whoever looked at her was instantly turned to stone. Perseus had quite the quest ahead of him. He went on an exciting journey and got himself a special sword, winged sandals, and a mirrored shield. Then he used the shield to look at Medusa without being turned to stone, and he cut her head off. When drops of blood squirted from her neck, they spawned Pegasus. Perseus then flew back home on Pegasus, his flying horse. Once in Seriphos, he used Medusa's severed head to turn the annoying King Polydectes to stone. Many years later, Perseus entered a discus-throwing competition in Argos. He threw the discus too hard and accidentally hit his grandfather in the audience, killing him. The original prophecy was fulfilled. Number 8. Godly Patricide. Patricide is a recurring theme in Greek mythology, the murder of one's own father. The most notorious case of patricide is Zeus and his daddy Cronus. Although Cronus also killed his father, Cronus was the king of the Titans and the god of time. He was seen as a kind of overwhelming force of destruction. Just as time destroys everything eventually, he ruled over the cosmos after he deposed his own father Uranus, who was the god of the sky. Then when Cronus started having his own babies with Rhea, his Titan wife, Cronus heard a prophecy. It was said that as he murdered his own father, so too would he be murdered by his son. Each time Rhea gave birth to one of his children, Cronus swallowed that baby into his belly. His kids couldn't kill him if he ate them first. Rhea grew tired of her children being consumed. When Zeus was born, she tricked Cronus by feeding him a stone swaddled in cloth like a baby. Then she stashed Zeus away in a secret place where he could grow to be strong enough to fight back against his dad. When Zeus was ready, he forced Cronus to regurgitate all the other children he had swallowed. This led to gods and goddesses like Ares and Athena being barfed out of his mouth. With the Olympians finally together, they fought a war against Cronus and his ruling Titans. Cronus and the others were banished to Tartarus, and Zeus took the throne on Mount Olympus. And now for number 7. But first, it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to Amanda Marshall and Bagatong by a Hero for supporting this channel. Hope I said that right. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. Number 7. Narcissus and Echo. To be narcissistic is to be like Narcissus, a character from Greek mythology who was obsessed with himself. Narcissus was born in Thespiae to the nymph Liriope. When Narcissus was just a baby, his mother asked an oracle if her son would live a long and happy life. The oracle responded by saying, only if he never knows himself. It soon became obvious as Narcissus crept through his teenage years that he was going to be a very handsome man, even more handsome than anyone could have imagined. He left in his wake a trail of broken-hearted maidens, and a few swooning young men as well. He was so handsome that he could get away with just about anything. Growing up, Narcissus never saw himself in a mirror. He had no idea how truly handsome he was until he sat down one day by a pool and saw his own reflection. In an instant, Narcissus became fascinated by his own face. He fell in love with himself and was unable to look away. He stared for so long at his reflection, enraptured by his features, that he died. Narcissus didn't eat or drink and perished after days of staring at his own reflection. It was the ultimate act of a narcissist. There is another version of the tale that includes the nymph Echo. In this story, Narcissus was yet again a very handsome man, so handsome that he felt he could refuse the advances of the beautiful nymph. Echo was so heartbroken that she wasted away and died. In this version of the story, it was Echo who became obsessed with Narcissus' looks. When she perished, she left only her voice reverberating through time as a sign of her despair. It was her echo, hence the name. Hera, queen of the gods, was so disgusted that Narcissus neglected Echo to death, she had him killed. Number 6. Theseus and the Minotaur. King Minos was the ruler of Crete, both in real life and in Greek mythology. Archaeologists have discovered a palace that likely belonged to Minos on the island. They've also found evidence of a potential labyrinth on Crete, adding credibility to the legends. King Minos exiled his own brother to take the throne. He asked Poseidon, god of the sea, if he could send a white bull as a sign that he approved his kingship. Minos was supposed to sacrifice the bull when it came to show his appreciation to Poseidon. But Minos was greedy and kept the bull to himself. Poseidon was angry and wanted revenge. The sea god possessed the king's wife so that she would fall in love with the bull. The offspring created would be a terrible creature known as the Minotaur. This is where various myths bleed into one another. King Minos hired the architect Daedalus to create an intricate labyrinth where the Minotaur could be held prisoner. Daedalus was the father of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun much later as they attempted to flee King Minos' horrible island. But before that, the labyrinth was completed and the Minotaur was kept inside. During this time, King Minos was receiving an ample bounty of fresh humans from the city of Athens. Athens was sending Crete 7 virtuous maidens and 7 noble youths every year. King Minos had defeated Athens, and they were forced to pay tribute with their most beautiful young people, who would then be eaten by the Minotaur. This went on until Theseus, son of King of Aegeus of Athens, volunteered to be one of the victims. Theseus went deep into the labyrinth and slaughtered the Minotaur. In 1894, the palace of King Minos was found by archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans. Definitely some truth to the ancient myth, but how much is still uncertain. There may really have been a labyrinth, but what was kept at its core is a mystery. Number 5. The Fire Thief. Prometheus was the one ancient Greek god who truly loved humanity. After Zeus destroyed his father and the other titans, he had an issue. Prometheus was a second-generation titan. He was still a titan, but hadn't gone to war against Zeus. Since he hadn't done anything wrong, Prometheus wasn't sent to prison in Tartarus for the rest of eternity. Zeus gave him the task of forming human beings from water and earth. Prometheus was the creator of humanity at the very beginning. He formed human bodies out of clay and brought them to life. As the creator of all people, Prometheus had a soft spot for mortals. Zeus did not feel the same way. Zeus was far more powerful than Prometheus and didn't like people challenging him. He liked humans as funny animals, but didn't want them to gain their own power. Zeus especially didn't want people to have control of fire. Prometheus cared more about the men and women he had created than the wrath of Zeus. He stole fire from Zeus's lightning and gave it as a gift to humans. Prometheus also stole forging skills from the blacksmith god Hephaestus. He gave humans the ability to create their own tools and implements. Then he stole wisdom from Athena that he would also give to men and women so they could be intelligent beings. Prometheus was the titan responsible for making humans more than beasts in Greek mythology. For his dedication and hard work, he was brutally punished. Prometheus was chained to the top of Mount Caucasus. Then, every single day, a vulture descended from the sky to eat his liver. His liver and the rest of his insides healed each night, and every day he was devoured alive. The story of Prometheus being chained to the rock is well known. A lesser-known fact about Prometheus is that he had a human son named Deucalion. He was the man spared by Zeus when Zeus destroyed the world using a great flood. Deucalion was the ancient Greek version of Noah in the Bible. After the floodwaters receded, Prometheus' son and his wife Pyrrha went about repopulating the earth. Number 4. The Sirens. The sirens of mythology were some of the most abhorrent creatures ever imagined. They were described in ancient texts as half-bird, half-maiden. They were almost like the Gorgons in the sense that they were beautiful but hideous at the same time. Unlike the Gorgons, who lived in a shadowy land of misery, the sirens lived at sea. They lived on small islands and sang beautiful songs to lure passing sailors to their deaths. The sirens were the daughters of Achelous, the river god, and one of the Muses. There are different versions of the story, but most say they were born of either Melpomene or Calliope. The whole thing with the sirens was that if they tried to lure a sailor with their song, and it failed, they would immediately perish. That was what happened when the hero Odysseus passed them by and was able to ignore their call. The sirens immediately flung themselves into the sea and drowned. The sirens appear in a lot of different written stories. Homer mentioned 2 sirens in the Odyssey. Later authors gave them different names. The Romans said they lived on small rocky islands named Sirenum Scopuli. It was said if any man made it alive onto the islands, they would find heaps of bones, like a hyena's den. Do you think there's any truth to stories from Greek mythology? Let me know in the comments below and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 3. The Cyclopes. Greek mythology would be incomplete without the Cyclopes. These were gigantic beings with only a single eye in the middle of their forehead. They had enormous strength, and they were not creatures you would want to mess with. There were originally 3 main Cyclopes: Arges, Steropes, and Brontes. They were the sons of Uranus and Gaea, meaning they were titans. But Cronus didn't like the Cyclopes, and he imprisoned them prior to the war with the Olympians. But once Cronus was defeated by Zeus, the Cyclopes were released into the world. It was the one-eyed giants who forged the famous thunderbolt weapon wielded by Zeus as a way of saying thank you. They also crafted Athena's armor and the chariot of Ares, god of war. But the Olympians were a fickle group. Each original Cyclops met their end at the hands of a god. Hermes killed Aegeus. Then Apollo murdered Serapis and Brontes in retaliation for his own son being killed. However, it was Zeus responsible for Apollo's son's death. He just took out his anger on the one-eyed Titans. It's not clear when it happened, but at some point the story of the Cyclops race changed. They quit being Titans and turned into slow-witted creatures compared to Neanderthals. They were a lot like trolls in Lord of the Rings. It was said they lived in the caves throughout southern Italy. The most famous of them was Polyphemus, a dumb, one-eyed monster blinded by Odysseus. Number 2. Jason and the Golden Fleece. Jason suffered tragedy from a young age. His uncle Peleus killed his father and took the throne of Locos for himself. Jason's mother was so afraid for her young son's life that she gave him to a centaur named Chiron. The centaur agreed to hide Jason deep in the mountains and raise him to be a powerful warrior. At the age of 20, Jason returns to his homeland to defeat his uncle and retake the throne for himself. But then a bunch of weird stuff starts to happen. Hera, queen of the gods, disguises herself as an old woman and has Jason carry her across a river. Jason loses a sandal in the crossing and arrives in front of his uncle with mismatched footwear. Peleus is extremely nervous when he sees Jason wearing only a single sandal, because an oracle prophesied a man with one sandal would steal his throne. Trying to buy some time, Peleus tells Jason that if he wants the throne, he needs to complete a task that proves he is worthy of it. He gives Jason the impossible task of retrieving the Golden Fleece. Myth said that the Golden Fleece was kept beyond the edge of the world in a place called Colchis. The Greeks saw this land as Southwest Asia. The fleece came from a golden ram that was given to one of Jason's ancient ancestors by Zeus. The ram was magical and could fly, and it took Jason's ancestor to the other side of the world. Then Jason's ancestor sacrificed the ram and hung its magic fleece in a sacred grove, where a dragon agreed to guard it for all of time. Jason simply needed to travel outside of the known world and slay a dragon. No big deal. Jason was determined to get the job done. He assembled a team of fantastic heroes who would help complete the greatest journey the world had ever seen. They were the Argonauts, of which Hercules may have been one. Some stories say Hercules joined the Argonauts, but the stories have changed a lot over the years. The brave warriors fought many beasts as they traveled to Colchis. Jason did get the Golden Fleece back after a long stretch of tedious tasks and monster battles. But even with the fleece, life did not go well for Jason. Jason returned to Greece with a sorceress named Medea as his wife. But the Greeks hated magicians and chased Jason and Medea into exile. He went through all that work to reclaim his throne, only to be chased away by his own people. While in exile in Corinth, the king there offered Jason his daughter's hand in marriage. Jason, still wanting to be king, betrayed his sorceress wife. It was a bad decision because Medea murdered Jason's new wife and his kids. Then she ascended to Mount Olympus and married the mighty warrior Achilles. Jason went back to Locos. He sat down next to a boat and a beam fell off and hit him on the head. He died just like that. Number 1. The Curse of the House of Atreus. The Curse of the House of Atreus is one of the most popular yet disturbing stories from Greek mythology. It's been told since ancient times and even made it to Broadway in 1968. The story begins with Pelops, the son of Tantalus, who was one of Zeus's many children. Pelops married the daughter of a king. He won her hand in marriage through treachery and inadvertently got her father killed in the process. The scheme involved Pelops bribing one of the king's servants with a night of intense relations with the bride. Pelops was selling out his wife before they were even married, but once the king was dead, Pelops betrayed the servant and had him killed. Right before the servant died, he cursed Pelops and his entire family, not just the living family, but all the ones who would come later. Every last blood relative was to be cursed for eternity. Pelops' father was the first to start the bloodshed. He killed his own son and then offered Pelops' flesh to the gods, saying it was really ox meat. The gods were so angry that they sent Tantalus to the underworld. For all of eternity, he was sentenced to stand in a pool of water underneath a fruit tree. Whenever he tried to pick the fruit, the branch would move beyond his reach. Whenever he tried to drink from the pool, the water would recede. This is where English gets the word tantalize from Tantalus, forever hungry and thirsty. Misery continued to be a thing in the family. Pelops had 2 sons before he died, Atreus and Thyestes. But they didn't want to share their kingdom, so they murdered their interloping half-brother. The murderers were caught and they were exiled. Later on, Thyestes had an affair with his brother's wife. When Atreus learned of the affair, he killed his brother's sons and fed them to Thyestes. There was a lot of really bad blood. Before Atreus was murdered, he named his own 2 sons, Agamemnon and Menelaus. Agamemnon is the most famous name in the family because he was the one who played a major role in the Trojan War by declaring war on Troy. This led to great strife for everyone. Agamemnon was killed by his own wife Clytemnestra when he returned victorious from Troy. Then his own kids, who were the 6th generation to be cursed, conspired to murder their mother and died miserably. The line finally ended when there were no more babies to carry on the curse. Thanks for watching. Which Greek myth is your favorite? Which one do you think is the scariest? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!